The silence in Golden Nebula restaurant was broken by the soft sound of the main entrance doors opening. 3 humans in expensive business suits walked into the dining room with quick, purposeful steps. Their clothes were perfectly fitted, made from materials that cost more than most beings earned in a year. Their faces showed the kind of controlled urgency that came with handling serious situations. Leading the group was Yuna, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and silver hair pulled back in a perfect style. Her dark blue suit was clearly tailored by the best designers on Earth, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone used to making important decisions. Behind her walked Minho, a tall man with broad shoulders and a briefcase that looked like it contained important documents. The third person was Hyok, younger than the others, carrying a tablet that glowed with financial data and communication alerts. Manager Boksu was still trying to apologize to Daeho when he noticed the 3 newcomers. His nervous Zentorian face became even more pale as he watched them scan the restaurant with professional eyes. Important-looking humans in expensive clothes usually meant trouble for restaurant staff, especially when there had been an incident. Yuna spotted Daeho immediately. Her sharp eyes took in his rumpled jacket, the overturned chair, and Jaewon standing nearby with his skin still flashing angry colors. She moved across the restaurant like a ship cutting through space, direct and unstoppable. "Chairman Kim," she said in a voice that carried clearly across the silent dining room. "We received your emergency signal. Are you injured?" The words hit the restaurant like a meteor striking a planet. Chairman Kim, emergency signal. Every alien diner who heard those words felt their blood turn cold. Boksu made a choking sound and nearly dropped his tablet. Jaewon's skin suddenly shifted from angry red and purple to the pale white of pure terror. Daeho brushed a bit more dust from his jacket and looked at Yuna with mild annoyance. "I told you the signal was not necessary, Yuna. This was just a small misunderstanding. Sir, with respect, when our security system detects that you have been physically assaulted, we respond immediately." Yuna's voice was professional, but her eyes were scanning Daeho for injuries. "Our protocols are clear." Minho stepped forward and opened his briefcase, pulling out a medical scanner. "Chairman, please let me check for injuries. Any assault on your person is a serious matter for the company and for galactic law." "Company?" Boksu whispered, his voice so quiet it was barely heard. But Hyok heard him and turned with a polite but cold smile. "Golden Nebula Hospitality Group," Hyok said clearly, holding up his tablet so everyone could see the corporate logo. "Chairman Kim Daeho founded the company 52 years ago. He owns 67% of all shares and serves as chairman of the board." The information spread through the restaurant like fire through dry grass. Golden Nebula Hospitality Group was one of the largest restaurant chains in 3 sectors of the galaxy. Every being in the room had eaten at Golden Nebula restaurants dozens of times. The company employed over 8 million beings across 2,000 worlds. Their stock was traded on every major galactic exchange, and the old man in the simple brown jacket owned it all. Jaewon began to shake. His forearms trembled, and his skin shifted rapidly between colors, unable to settle on any single emotion. He had just called the owner of Golden Nebula a parasite and a primitive. He had insulted the man who signed his paychecks, who owned the building they stood in, who could end his career with a single word. "This cannot be real," Jaewon said in a voice barely above a whisper. "He is just an old human. Look at his clothes. Look at how he sits. He asked for modifications to the food like some common customer." Daeho turned to look at the terrified Thraxian with sad but gentle eyes. "I am a common customer, Jaewon. That is why I come here dressed like this, sitting alone in corner tables. I want to see how my restaurants really work, not how they work when everyone knows the owner is watching." Yuna pulled out her own tablet and began scrolling through information. This is the Golden Nebula location on Nexus Prime, facility number 1847 in our system. According to our records, this restaurant has been operating for 6 years. Chairman Kim has visited this location 12 times, always using his standard cover identity. Cover identity? Boksu asked weakly. Chairman Kim believes that the best way to ensure quality service is to experience it as a regular customer, Minho explained. He visits our locations randomly without warning, dressed as an ordinary being. He sits in different sections, orders various items, and observes how staff treat customers they do not recognize as important. Hyok tapped his tablet, and a holographic display appeared above it, showing financial charts and corporate information. Golden Nebula Hospitality Group currently operates 9,247 restaurants across 412 worlds in 3 galactic sectors. We employ 8.2 million beings from 67 different species. Our annual revenue last year was 2.4 trillion galactic credits. The numbers were staggering. Every alien in the restaurant understood what they were hearing. This was not just any business. Owner, this was one of the most powerful beings in their section of the galaxy, a human who had built an empire that touched nearly every civilized world. But he is just a human, Jaewon said again, still unable to accept the truth. Humans are primitive. They are new to space travel. They do not build galactic empires. Daiho walked slowly back to his table and sat down in his chair. Yuna immediately moved to stand behind him, while Minho and Hyok positioned themselves nearby. The simple old man now looked very different with his corporate executives surrounding him like bodyguards. 55 years ago, I was selling food from a cart on the streets of Seoul, Daiho said in his quiet voice. Simple food for working people who could not afford expensive restaurants. I learned that good food and honest service could make customers happy no matter what species they belonged to. He looked around the restaurant at all the alien diners who were staring at him with new understanding. When humans first began traveling to other worlds, I saw an opportunity. Aliens visiting Earth wanted to try human food, but they also wanted familiar flavors from their home worlds. So I learned to cook Vaxian dishes, Helios recipes, Kulani specialties. I hired chefs from every species I could find. Yuna stepped forward with her tablet. The first Golden Nebula restaurant opened on Mars Colony in 2387. Within 5 years, we had locations on 12 worlds. Within 10 years, we had expanded to over 100 planets. The key to our success was treating every customer and every employee with equal respect, regardless of their species. We were the first restaurant chain to offer truly integrated dining, Minho added. Menus that featured dishes from dozens of worlds, prepared by chefs from those same worlds, served by staff who understood the cultural preferences of every species. Hyok pulled up more data on his holographic display. Our customer satisfaction ratings have remained above 94% for 47 consecutive years. Our employee retention rate is the highest in the hospitality industry. We have received awards from the governments of 23 different worlds for promoting interspecies cooperation and understanding. Jaewon collapsed into an empty chair, his skin now completely white with shock. He had spent 8 months working for Golden Nebula, taking their salary, wearing their uniform, serving their customers. And he had just assaulted the man who made it all possible. Sir, Boksu said to Daiho, his voice shaking with fear. I am so sorry. This is unacceptable. Jaewon will be fired immediately. We will take full responsibility for this incident. But Daiho held up one hand to stop him. Wait, the old man said quietly. Before we make any decisions, I want to understand something. Jaewon, how long have you been treating human customers this way? The question hung in the air like smoke from a crashed ship. Jaewon looked around the restaurant desperately, hoping someone would save him from having to answer, but every face stared back at him with the same expression. They all wanted to know the truth. Jaewon started, then stopped. His skin was shifting between white terror and gray shame. I have never been rude to customers before tonight, sir. This was just a bad moment. I was having a difficult day and... That is not what I asked, Deho said gently but firmly. I asked how long you have been treating human customers this way. There is a difference between being rude once and having ongoing prejudice. Yuna stepped forward with her tablet already open to security records. Chairman, our system keeps detailed logs of all customer complaints and staff performance reviews. Would you like me to check this location's records? Please do. Hyuk was already working on his own device, connecting to the restaurant's internal networks. Within seconds, holographic displays filled the air above their tables, showing months of data in neat rows and columns. Here we are, Hyuk announced. Golden Nebula Nexus Prime location, staff member J1, employee number 7439. He has been working here for 8 months and 12 days. The data streams showed customer service ratings, complaint records, and incident reports. As the information scrolled past, a clear picture began to emerge. The numbers were not good. In the past 8 months, this location has received 47 complaints specifically about poor service to human customers, Yuna read from the data. 31 of those complaints mention a Thraxian waiter by name. Complaints include refusing to take modifications to orders, making rude comments about human food preferences, deliberately slow service, and suggesting that human customers would be happier at cheaper establishments. Boksu's face turned from pale to completely white. 47 complaints, but I never received reports about that many problems. Minho looked up from his briefcase with a stern expression. According to our records, Manager Boksu, you received copies of all complaint forms. You marked them as resolved without taking any action against the staff member involved. I thought they were just isolated incidents, Boksu stammered. Different species sometimes have misunderstandings. I did not realize it was a pattern. Or you did not want to realize, Deho said quietly. The old man's voice was still calm, but there was something harder underneath now. Tell me, Boksu, how do you typically handle complaints about discrimination? The question made other restaurant staff members look uncomfortable. Several servers and kitchen workers had gathered near the service window to watch the unfolding drama. Their faces showed they knew exactly what was happening. We try to handle complaints internally, Boksu said weakly. We talk to the staff members involved and ask them to be more careful in the future. And if the complaints continue, we give additional warnings. Hyuk pulled up more data, and the holographic display showed a breakdown of complaints by species. The numbers told a troubling story. Human customers made up 18% of the restaurant's business, but they accounted for over 60% of all service complaints. This is not just about Jaewon, Deho said, scanning the data with experienced eyes. This restaurant has a systematic problem with how it treats human customers. Yuna was already making notes on her tablet. Chairman, I am seeing similar patterns. In our complaint databases from other locations, it appears this may not be an isolated issue. Show me. Within minutes, the air above their table was filled with data from Golden Nebula restaurants across 3 sectors of the galaxy. Location after location showed the same troubling pattern. Human customers receiving worse service, filing more complaints, and having those complaints dismissed or ignored by management. The alien diners in the restaurant watched this display with growing unease. They were seeing evidence of systematic discrimination happening in places they had eaten hundreds of times. Some of them began to remember incidents they had witnessed but ignored, servers being ruder to human customers, human families being seated in less desirable areas, human guests waiting longer for service. This is bigger than one rude waiter, Daiho said, looking around the restaurant. This is about the attitudes that allowed this behavior to continue for months without consequences. Jaewon, who had been silent during the data presentation, suddenly stood up from his chair. His skin was flashing between colors rapidly, showing internal conflict. You want to know the truth, he said, his voice louder than before. Fine. Yes, I treat human customers differently. Yes, I think they do not belong in high-end restaurants. Yes, I believe they are primitive beings who got lucky with technology. The honesty was brutal, but it was also exactly what Daeho needed to hear. And where did you learn these beliefs? The old man asked. From everyone, Jae-won said, gesturing around the restaurant. From other staff members, from customers, from the news feeds, from my family back home. Everyone knows humans are inferior. The only difference is that I was honest about it. Several other staff members looked uncomfortable now, realizing that their own attitudes were being exposed. I see, Daeho said. He turned to address the entire restaurant, raising his voice so everyone could hear. How many beings in this room have heard similar opinions about humans? How many of you have friends or family who believe that humans do not deserve equal treatment? The silence that followed was answer enough. Nearly every alien in the restaurant looked down at their tables or away from Daeho's gaze. The problem is not just Golden Nebula, the old man continued. The problem is that galactic society has decided that some species are worth more than others, and my restaurants, my company that I built to bring beings together, has become part of that system. Yuna looked worried. Chairman, what are you saying? I am saying that firing Jae-won will not solve anything. Replacing manager Boksu will not fix the real issue. We need to address the attitudes that created this situation in the first place. Minho opened his briefcase again and pulled out a communication device. Sir, we should also be aware that news of this incident is already spreading. Our stock price has dropped 12% in the past hour as word gets out about discrimination. In our restaurants, Hayek confirmed this with his tablet. Social media networks across 17 worlds are discussing the incident. Some alien groups are calling for boycotts of Golden Nebula restaurants. Some human colonies are organizing protests against establishments that employ discriminatory staff. The situation was escalating beyond a simple restaurant incident. This was becoming a galactic issue that could affect billions of beings and trillions of credits in business. There is more, Chairman, Yuna said, checking new messages on her device. The Galactic Commerce Board has announced they will be investigating our company for discriminatory practices. The Human Colonial Alliance is demanding a formal response. 3 major news networks want interviews. Daeho stood up slowly and looked around the restaurant one more time. Every alien diner, every staff member, every person in the room was watching him, waiting to see what the most powerful human in 3 sectors would do next. Schedule an emergency board meeting, he said finally. Full holographic conference with representatives from every sector. I want department heads, regional managers, and legal teams connected within 6 hours. Yes, sir. What should I tell them the meeting is about? Tell them, Daeho said, that we are going to rebuild Golden Nebula from the ground up, and this time we are going to do it right. The emergency board meeting took place in the executive conference room aboard Golden Nebula's corporate headquarters ship, Harmony. The vessel had been built specifically for conducting business across multiple star systems, equipped with the most advanced holographic communication technology in the galaxy. Representatives from 200 worlds appeared as perfect 3-dimensional images around the massive circular table. Daeho sat at the head of the table in his simple brown jacket, looking strangely out of place among the expensive suits and formal attire of the other board members. But everyone in the room, whether physically present or attending by hologram, knew they were looking at the most important person in galactic hospitality. Thank you all for joining this emergency session, Daeho began, his quiet voice carrying, clearly through the advanced audio system. By now, you have all seen the reports from Nexus Prime. What happened at Restaurant 1847 was not an isolated incident. It was the visible symptom of a disease that has been growing in our company for years. The holographic representatives shifted uncomfortably. These were powerful beings, Vaxian business leaders who controlled entire trade routes, Kilani executives who managed operations on dozens of worlds, Helios administrators who oversaw diplomatic dining facilities. None of them wanted to admit that their sectors might have similar problems. Yuna activated a massive holographic display that filled the center of the conference table. Data streams flowed through the air, showing complaint records, customer satisfaction ratings, and employment statistics from across the Golden Nebula Empire. "The data is clear," she announced. "Human customers consistently receive lower quality service across 73% of our locations. Human employees are promoted less frequently and receive lower performance ratings despite similar qualifications. Most troubling, complaints about discrimination have increased by 340% over the past 5 years." A Vaxian board member named Taiku raised one of his large blue hands. "Chairman Kim, with respect, some level of species preference is natural. Different beings have different cultural expectations. Perhaps human customers are simply more difficult to satisfy." "Or perhaps," Deho replied calmly, "we have been telling ourselves convenient lies to avoid facing uncomfortable truths." Minyo stepped forward with his own presentation. "We conducted a detailed analysis of customer behavior across species lines. Human customers tip at the same rates as other species, order similar quantities of food, and cause no more disruptions than average. The only significant difference is in how our staff treat them." The evidence was overwhelming, but some board members still resisted accepting it. A Kalani executive named Yunwoo spoke up from her holographic projection. "Even if we accept that some discrimination exists, changing company culture across nearly 10,000 locations will be extremely expensive. Our shareholders will not approve massive expenditures for sensitivity training and policy changes, especially when our profits are already strong." This comment revealed the heart of the problem. Many board members saw discrimination as a minor issue that did not significantly hurt business. They were wrong. Hyok activated new data displays showing the financial impact of the discrimination scandal. Since news of the Nexus Prime incident broke 18 hours ago, Golden Nebula stock has dropped 27%. We have received cancellation notices for over 300 corporate catering contracts. 16 worlds have announced they are reviewing their licenses for our restaurants in their territories. The numbers got the board's attention in a way that moral arguments had not. "More importantly," Deho said, standing to address the room, "we are losing something that took 50 years to build, our reputation for bringing different species together. Golden Nebula was founded on the principle that good food and honest service could unite beings from any world. If we abandon that principle, we become just another restaurant chain." He began walking around the table, making eye contact with both physical and holographic representatives. "Let me tell you a story," Deho said. 52 years ago, I was a young man selling food from a cart in Seoul. My first alien customer was a Zentaurian trader who was visiting Earth for the first time. He was nervous about trying human food, worried that it would be too spicy or too strange for his digestive system. The room was completely quiet now, everyone listening to the old man's words. I spent an hour with him, explaining each ingredient, modifying recipes to suit his needs, treating him like an honored guest rather than a strange creature. When he left, he told me it was the best meal he had eaten since leaving his home world. More importantly, he brought back 12 other alien traders the next day. Deho stopped walking and looked directly at the holographic image of the Kalani executive who had questioned the cost of changes. That Zentaurian trader was named Minsu. He is now our Vice President of Operations for the Outer Rim sectors. He has been with Golden Nebula for 48 years, and he built our expansion into 67 new star systems. Do you want to know what his yearly revenue contribution is to this company?" Yunwoo looked uncomfortable, but nodded. 8 billion credits annually, Hyok answered, pulling up Minsu's operational data. His sectors account for 34% of our total profits. That is the financial value of treating every being with respect, Deho said. Not just because it is morally right, but because it is good business. When we discriminate, we lose customers, employees, opportunities, and money. A Helios board. Member named Seojin flashed diplomatic colors across his crystal skin as he spoke. "Chairman Kim, assuming we accept the need for changes, What exactly are you proposing? Daeho returned to his seat and activated a new presentation that Yuna had prepared. Complete restructuring of our hiring, training, and management practices across all locations. Every employee, from kitchen staff to regional directors, will undergo comprehensive anti-discrimination education. We will implement new complaint procedures that bypass local management. We will establish independent monitoring systems to track service quality across species lines. The scope of the proposal was massive, touching every aspect of Golden Nebula's operations. Additionally, Minho added, we will create a victim compensation fund for customers who experience discrimination at our restaurants. We will publicly apologize and take full responsibility for past failures, and we will make our diversity data public, allowing outside organizations to monitor our progress. Several board members began protesting simultaneously. The holographic images flickered as multiple people tried to speak at once. The cost will be enormous, one voice said. Our competitors will use this against us, said another. Some locations will resist these changes, warned a third. Daeho let them voice their concerns, then held up his hand for silence. You are all correct, he said simply. This will be expensive, difficult, and risky. Some of our competitors will try to take advantage of our temporary weakness. Some of our employees will quit rather than change their attitudes. Some locations may even lose money in the short term. He paused, looking around the room at faces both worried and determined. But the alternative is worse. We can continue pretending that discrimination is not our problem, watching our reputation slowly crumble as more incidents like Nexus Prime happen. We can keep losing customers and employees while our competitors build more inclusive businesses. We can abandon the principles that made Golden Nebula successful in the first place. Or we can remember that we became the largest restaurant chain in 3 sectors by treating every being with dignity and respect. We can choose to lead the hospitality industry toward a better future rather than following others. We can prove that doing the right thing is also good business. The vote, when it came, was not close. Every board member, even those who had initially resisted, voted to approve Daeho's comprehensive anti-discrimination program. As the holographic representatives began to disconnect and return to their sectors, Yuna approached Daeho with a final piece of news. Chairman, I just received word from Nexus Prime. Jae-won has requested to speak with you personally. 6 months later, Kim Daeho walked through the main entrance of Golden Nebula restaurant on Nexus Prime. He wore the same simple brown jacket and dark pants, looking like any other elderly human visiting the busy trade station. But this time, his arrival was no secret. The restaurant looked different now. The same golden lights hung from the ceiling, the same beautiful views of space filled the large windows. But there was something new in the atmosphere. Staff members of different species worked together with easy cooperation, their movements showing comfort rather than the subtle tensions that had existed before. At the hostess station, a young Quilani female named Minji greeted him with a warm smile. Chairman Kim, welcome back to Golden Nebula Nexus Prime. Your usual table in the corner is ready, or would you prefer a different seat tonight? The corner table is perfect, thank you. Daeho followed her across the dining room, noting the mixed groups of diners chatting comfortably at their tables. Humans sat with Vaxian business partners, Helios families shared meals with Zentorian friends, species mixing naturally without the subtle segregation he had observed on his previous visit. As he settled into his chair, Daeho saw a familiar figure approaching from across the restaurant. Jae-won walked toward the table with steady, confident steps, but his posture was completely different from their last encounter. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked like genuine respect. The young Thraxian had changed in visible ways. His skin showed the calm blue-green colors of contentment, and his forearms moved with the graceful efficiency of someone who had found peace with his work. He wore the Golden Nebula uniform with obvious pride. Chairman Kim, Jae-won said as he reached the table. May I serve you this evening? I would be honored, Deho replied simply. 6 months ago, those words would have been impossible. The journey between that night of anger and this moment of respect had been long and difficult for both of them. After the board meeting, Deho had given Jae-won a choice: face criminal charges for assault and discrimination or accept enrollment in a comprehensive rehabilitation program. The program was experimental, designed specifically for beings who held deep prejudices against other species. Jae-won had spent 3 months living in human communities on Earth, working in simple jobs, learning about human history and culture. He had lived with human families, eaten human food, and discovered that the primitive species he had despised were far more complex than his prejudices had allowed him to see. The remaining 3 months had been spent in intensive education about the effects of discrimination, not just on victims but on entire societies. He had studied the histories of dozens of worlds where species-based hatred had led to war, economic collapse, and generations of suffering. But the most important part of his rehabilitation had been working directly with beings he had previously looked down upon. He had served meals to human families, taken orders from human business leaders, and gradually learned to see individuals rather than stereotypes. "What can I bring you to drink tonight, sir?" Jae-won asked, pulling out his order. "Tablet. I think I would like to try that 2387 Altarian wine again," Deho said with a slight smile. "If I remember correctly, you said it had notes of crystallized fruit and mountain herbs." Jae-won's skin showed a brief flash of embarrassment at the memory, but he recovered quickly. "Yes, sir, it is an excellent choice. And may I suggest our Helios crystal soup to start? Our chef has developed a new preparation method that reduces the spice level while maintaining the traditional flavors. It has become very popular with customers who prefer gentler seasonings." The recommendation showed how much Jae-won had learned. Instead of seeing modifications as insults to proper cuisine, he now understood that good service meant adapting to each customer's needs. That sounds perfect. As Jae-won left to place the order, Deho looked around the restaurant with satisfaction. The changes at Golden Nebula had been even more successful than he had hoped. The comprehensive anti-discrimination program had been implemented across all 9,147 locations, with surprisingly positive results. Customer satisfaction ratings had increased by 23%. Employee retention had improved dramatically as beings from all species felt more welcome in the workplace. Most surprising of all, profits had actually increased as the company attracted new customers who appreciated their commitment to equality. Other restaurant chains had been forced to implement similar programs as customers began demanding better treatment regardless of their species. The incident at Nexus Prime had sparked a galaxy-wide conversation about discrimination in the service industry. Manager Boksu approached the table, looking far more confident than he had 6 months ago. The nervous Zentaurian had also undergone extensive training, learning how to identify and address discrimination before it became a serious problem. "Chairman Kim, how is everything this evening?" he asked. "Excellent as always. How are the new policies working out?" "Better than we could have hoped, sir. Our staff reviews show much higher job satisfaction. Customer complaints are down 78%, and we have been selected as the model location for training new managers throughout the sector." The success at Nexus Prime had made it a showcase for the new Golden Nebula approach. Managers from other locations came here to observe how integrated teams could work together effectively. Jae-won returned with the wine and soup, serving both with professional skill. As he set down the soup bowl, he spoke quietly. "Chairman Kim, I want to thank you again for giving me a second chance. 6 months ago, I was full of anger and hatred that I did not even understand. Your rehabilitation program did not just save my job. It saved me from becoming someone I would have been ashamed to be. We all carry prejudices, Jae-won. The difference is whether we choose to examine them and grow beyond them, or let them control our actions. I have been thinking about that a lot, sir." During my time on Earth, I met humans who had their own prejudices against Thraxians. They had been taught that my species was violent and untrustworthy. But when they got to know me as an individual, those beliefs changed. Daiho nodded thoughtfully. What did you learn from that experience? That prejudice works in all directions, and that personal relationships are the best way to overcome it. Jaewon paused, his skin showing the colors of deep thought. That is why what we do here matters so much. Every positive interaction between species helps break down the barriers that keep us apart. Exactly. Golden Nebula is not just a restaurant chain. It is a place where beings from different worlds learn to see each other as individuals rather than representatives of their species. As Jaewon left to serve other customers, Daiho began eating his soup and reflecting on the changes of the past months. The rehabilitation program had been expanded to other companies across the galaxy. The Galactic Commerce Board had adopted new standards for addressing discrimination complaints. Several worlds had passed laws requiring anti-bias training for all customer service positions. But the most important change was harder to measure. Throughout the galaxy, beings were beginning to treat each other with more respect and understanding. Restaurant servers were more polite to customers from different species. Hotel staff were more accommodating to diverse needs. Transportation workers were more helpful to travelers from other worlds. The incident that had started with one rude waiter had grown into a movement that was reshaping galactic society. Yuna appeared at his table, no longer in an expensive business suit, but in the comfortable clothes of someone enjoying a dinner out with friends. She was followed by Minho and Hyuk, both looking relaxed and happy. "Mind if we join you, Chairman?" she asked with a grin. "Please sit, and tonight, just call. Me, Daiho, we are not here for business." As his executives settled around the table, Daiho looked out the large windows at the ships coming and going from Nexus Prime Station. Beings from hundreds of worlds traveled through this space every day, carrying goods, ideas, and cultures across the galaxy. "You know," he said to his companions, 53 years ago I thought success meant serving good food and making customers happy. I never imagined that a simple restaurant chain could help change how different species treat each other." "Maybe that is exactly why it worked," Minho suggested. "You were not trying to solve galactic prejudice. You were just trying to serve everyone with equal respect. The bigger changes happen naturally." "The best revolutions start with small, consistent actions," Hyuk added. "Every time a server treats a customer with dignity, every time a manager promotes someone based on merit rather than species, every time beings from different worlds share a meal together, those moments add up to something bigger." Daiho raised his glass of Altarian wine, and his companions raised their own drinks in response. "To small moments that change everything," the old man said. "To Golden Nebula," Yuna added. "To second chances," said Minho. "To the future," Hyuk concluded. As they drank their toast, Jaewon served nearby tables with skill and courtesy, treating every customer with the same respectful attention regardless of their species. Other staff members moved efficiently through the restaurant, their cooperation showing how beings from different worlds could work together as equals. In schools across the galaxy, children were learning about the night that changed.